I've learned one thing over the years, living on sacred burial ground, becoming a Reiki master, and studying ancient Hawaiian healing in 2 different settings with elders and healers in the community, what is negative and what is dark is just a mirror of what's within us. So, don't be scared. Don't be like, oh my gosh, I'm the devil, I'm a demon, and it's living inside of me. I want you to look at this as a really empowering thing right now. When we see what's happening in the collective world, when we see things like oppression, when we see things like war, when we see things like violence, when we see things just unfairness, disparity, etc., we need to ask ourselves, where am I perpetuating this war, this oppression, all of the things that I am so hurt by, so disgusted by, so fearful of in the world, in my own life, in my own self. Most likely, you're not doing it to others, but you may be, honestly. Like, you gotta get really real with yourself too. It can even be in very micro ways. I'm hanging out with this little baby right now. Look at how bad I'm being. Just kidding, I'm being safe. I really am. But anyway. So you have to look at all of the ways that you are actually taking the very thing that's happening in the world and you're taking it into your life. So maybe you're doing it in micro ways. You're being dishonest, you're being passive aggressive, you're using emotional manipulation to try to get what you want from people and things. Guilt tripping people, you're trying to control your partner or others or your family or your friends. How are you literally being that kind of dictator or that kind of insidious force in your own life with the people around you? Where are you being dishonest? Where are you being unfair? And this is all so important to look at because we genuinely cannot control what's going on in the outside world. Yes, awareness is great. Yes, having conversations is great. Yes, donating where you can and supporting different causes and just voting with your dollar by actually buying products that are ethically sourced and made and all of these other things that we can do to be more conscious and support the right things in our lives. But also realize that people are going to do what they're going to do with their free will, and we have to make sure that we are being the change so that it's breaking the pattern. It's breaking that collective pattern, because as we remember, we are all one. We are all fragmented, having this experience as one human race, as one entity, really, just broken up into different bodies and forms. We all will go back to this one collective in the end. Your enemy, the thing you're against, the oppressor and the oppressee, they are literally going to be the same. And so how can we make sure that our individual fragment is clean and that we are not doing the very thing that unto others or ourselves that we are so upset with in the world? So I know, and I've shared this story before, how, you know, we all, especially like women, love to point our fingers at the patriarchy, and I was the patriarchy in so many ways, oppressing myself and my femininity, not letting myself rest, not letting myself have flow, not letting myself have self-expression or things that felt girly. I was like shutting them down, not letting myself have deep friendships with other women because I decided to fear them instead of feel and see the light and the love in them. It was just so many ways that I was looking at outside things when I myself was the problem. And this happens in so many different areas. And honestly, right now, call it my privilege, whatever, I'm not feeling like so triggered by outside world events, not because I'm completely ignorant to them, but because I know what I'm supporting. I'm conscious in my purchases for the most part. You know, there are some times where you just like, you do your best. I'm conscious in, my consumption is what I'm saying by that. And I'm ultimately really, really, really in check with how and what I'm showing up in the world with and as. And I really, like, I run it through a lot. Where did that come from? What am I perpetuating? What is that belief? And it's so liberating to feel like, listen, I'm cleaning up my side of the street. I'm doing the best that I can. And of course, I'm not perfect and I have blind spots for sure. But when I lived with this external focus of like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, it was so much more unhealthy. I was so much more unhappy. And nothing's really changing. Nothing's changing at all. The only thing that I am truly in control of is myself, is my belief system, is how I show up. And I feel the weight of the collective. I feel the world. Trust me, I'm deeply empathetic. And if I sit with it really long, I can really feel that rage and pain, which is important to feel every once in a while, for sure. But we cannot live there, because if we live there, we are not creating anything of benefit and service for the world. If we live there, we too are oppressed by that system. And what does that serve? What does that serve if we aren't shining our light and raising the frequency through our authenticity and our love and our joy? The world does not become a better place. Trust me, all it becomes is us trudging around in misery and suffering. Like, no, that is not what it's meant for. One of my favorite emails I ever got, like a newsletter marketing email, was from Sahara Rose, who I love so much. And she wrote in her email, do you think that the tribes in Africa stop drumming when there is a shortage of food? Do you think that they stop dancing? No, because look, like, this is one of the most fragile ecosystems of humanity, and with limited resources and all of these things we all know, and they are some of the most expressive, beautiful, collective cultures with art and beauty, and they continue to celebrate. And she gave a whole list of like, what if the women stopped dancing in this, and the men stopped doing this and this, and what if the humans stopped doing this? What if we all stopped our joy just to suffer? Sometimes we will not be able to feel the joy. Like, I'm not trying to be like toxic positivity here. Like, all of the emotions are welcome and necessary, and that's what I just said about rage and sadness and disgust and all those things that are really important to feel and to purge and then ground out and then come back to what you can do in your life to be the most authentic, pure version of you. And pure is kind of also like a word, because we're not meant to be perfect. We're just meant to be conscious and aware of how we can make this world a better place just through our conscious being. And our being is really the word, because we're all perfect at our core. We're all of source. We are all love. We are all authentic love and joy, and that is our birthright. Not just our birthright, but our actual who we are. So that is a huge speech that I just always feel like I need to go on and listen. If you are passionate in your activism or advocacy, I'm an INFJ. Like, the people that were INFJs in history are Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, and so much more. But something else about their advocacy that I love so much is that they were people who showed up and painted the positive vision. I have a dream, right? I have a dream that we will walk hand in hand. I have a dream that this will happen. Like, that speech was the most moving speech this man told. Why? Because he painted the positive vision. He didn't try to point fingers at like who's right and wrong, even though, yes, there's definitely lots of things that were going on that were not right. And can we recognize that when we actually paint the positive vision, that brings us into our humanity and lets even the oppressor or the person who is doing the harm start to shift? That is the positive way to lead activism. That's the positive way to lead a revolution, is to show up in your light and to show up with your highest vision for the world and be committed to making that happen through your being. And, you know, we love to get obsessed with like the drama and almost like the gossip of it all. And it's like, yes, we have to address what's there, but what vision are you even holding? What's your vision? What what are you even here for? What are you trying to change? So, okay, yeah, we know we don't like it. Now, who are you going to be in the face of that? What are you shifting? What are you calling in for us? And lead in that way, not against something, for freedom, for peace, for joy, for connection. That is what I need to see in our humanity. And so that's something I'm really committed to, is holding the vision of what I want, of what I think is true for us, and doing it in joy, without really, with as little as possible. I know this can be tricky and challenging, and sometimes I question myself too, but I really try also to not make anybody else wrong. Like, I'm like that. It seems like there's clear right and wrong sometimes, but what if there really wasn't? What if there's just a really important experience that was happening? And what if we could just see ourselves in every aspect of it, and then just be committed to doing what we feel authentically is the most aligned and beautiful thing to do? Does that make sense? So the reason I mentioned in the beginning what growing up in, like, on sacred Hawaiian burial ground, which is a huge thing and another story for another time, because that is a really interesting, first of all, not lovely or okay thing that the people that built the house that I grew up in here on Maui, they had excavated literal bones to make real estate. And believe me, that is absolutely not something that I'm okay with. And I have so much reverence for this land. And when my parents bought the place back in the 90s, that was one of the things that in the end was disclosed. And they tried to bless this land and do all these sacred healings and all of these things, and Hawaiian healers and all these different kinds of spiritual practitioners and holy water and the whole nine, like forgiveness and clearing and all of those things. And this place felt so moody. It felt so moody. It felt like some days you would come and get like pure joy, and other days you would come and it would be so dark. And you never knew what you were gonna get. It was like a roll of the dice. It was also the place that my family came, and we had the most stillness of anywhere else, because they were always on the go and things were always really hectic. And then suddenly we'd come back home to the Hawaiian jungle and everybody could just be, and we were nobody. We were just people in the jungle. And that's where I felt more myself and more free and more connected to God and everything. And that is a huge part of my story. And that land was my greatest inspiration, because I cared so much, and I felt just so intuitively such a connection with the spirits there and the people of the land, and like the sacred Hawaiian lineage and ancestry and spirituality that wasn't necessarily my own haole white-skinned girl's history. And I ended up dedicating myself to studying that, honestly, almost my life, to studying the culture. And so I could understand like the language of this land that meant so much to me. And some people were really afraid of this place. Like, they'd get there and it felt really confronting to them and dark, and they would arrive and be like, it's like overwhelming. But I always was like, it is really scary sometimes, but I know that it's for me. I know that it's asking something of me, and I'm gonna listen. And so I would devote to this land, doing sacred rituals and practices and forgiveness and offerings, and everything I was learning in my training I would just apply straight to the land. And I was doing this over the course of my life, even before the training. But it was just such an intuitive relationship I had with this land, and I ended up feeling so much peace, love, joy, and inspiration here. It was so sacred because I felt it was my mirror in the end. At first I thought it was haunted and it was like a ghost story or something, but then I ended up realizing that these spirits, which I do believe were also spirits of the land, were also just mirroring me, my fear, my shame, my darkness, so that it could come to the surface and be transmuted. And that's one of my favorite words that I learned during my time there, was to transmute energy, which then later when I became a Reiki master, I learned that yes, you can transmute energy. Energy is energy. It cannot be created nor destroyed, and it is neither positive or negative. This is my training and this is my experience. And we always talk about like dark forces and all of these things, but it's a mirror of where you are and what is within you. And it will not be able to impact you if you do not give it power to. If you do not let this insidious darkness consume you and be you, it will not be mirrored back to you unless it needs to be mirrored back to you. Does that make sense? There is no outside ominous negative force that's going to consume you. It's the water that you have swam in. And this is the hard part, is that when we have a lot of pain in our lives, sorry, this woman just like cut in, and I was like, she threw her little shock out the window because I let her in, and honestly I am that driver, so I'm like, I have no road rage. That's the other thing, like recognize who and where you are, and like it will free you to own your shadow, to own your darkness. Like that just reminded me of that. Like some people might get so pissed when people like cut them off and whatever. I do not give a shit, because I am also well aware in my humanity and my ability to cut someone off just as much. I am just as likely. So, oh my God, and then look at that. Like I put my blinker on last minute and someone just let me in, like, and I was being an idiot just now. Look, I'm just saying, like, the world really does. The world mirrors you. And I really love that so much. I love that. I love that that just happened, because there's so much to say when we let ourselves just be in our humanity and we realize that we are all darkness and light, which ends up being honestly in neutrality. It's who is right and who is wrong. How about we just all recognize that every single thing, especially the things that trigger you the most about what's happening in the world, we hold within us. And I was starting to say that I realized how hard that is when you were growing up in a really like unhappy, unstable household, and then you have to reframe all of these belief systems because they're being mirrored back to you in the world so hardcore, and you're like, I didn't do anything to deserve this. I was literally a child that was embedded with these beliefs. First of all of us were in some way, shape, or form. And I realized that there can be different levels of trauma, and we're also not comparing levels of trauma, because you can have extreme emotional abandonment and you can have the physical abandonment too, and there's just so many flavors. But it's all of our responsibility now to take full responsibility for our own well-being and look at the darkness that's literally within us, and that is okay. But own it, acknowledge it, transmute it. And it will not be in your external reality. It will not consume you. You may see things in the world you don't like. You may experience things. There's always going to be something in the world. I mean, I don't want to say always. You never know. You never know. Maybe if all of us get to this like personal integration state of being, then maybe that does. I actually do believe that could shift the entire world. Are we all going to get there? I don't know. I hope so. That'd be sick. But the truth is, all that we can do is integrate our own and be our own most loving, conscious, authentic selves. And that is where the change lies. No pointing fingers at this darkness, the dark forces. When you see things, ask yourself, where does that live in me? And then love that part of you. Breathe through that part of you. See how that part of you tried to protect you. See how important it was to your upbringing. And then let it know, I'm here, I'm listening, and you can trust me now. We have my highest self in the room now. We don't need to live like this anymore. I hope that all makes sense, because I'm really, 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 really passionate about that, and that has changed my life. To think like that, to believe that, to come back to that, to remember that. It's really a remembering. It's a remembrance of who we really are. Thank you for listening. Drive safe out there. I hope that you have the most beautiful day. Let me know how that resonates with you, how that's shown up for you in your real life. That's interesting. Or in the collective, what you see in the collective, and what that is manifesting for you, and maybe reflect on what it is in you that is already living in that's living in the victimhood about it, or that's oppressing, or that's whatever. Just pay attention. Do the inner work. It's so much easier to look at the outside world and point fingers, but the inner work is really the stuff. I'll talk more about the Hawaiian burial ground and all of those things in another video, because there's so much more I want to say, and I don't just want to drop that willy-nilly. It's a really, really important thing to me, and I take the whole thing very seriously, and I would love to share more at different times. So stay tuned for that. Just know I come with so much reverence. Just know that I'm not perfect.